TSM's 2022 roster changes have sparked nothing but dread for the entire organization ever since the inception of the LCS season. From an outburst of key brand members leaving to a complete rebrand of the team's identity with their Chinese imports, the org was hoping to turn a new leaf with this latest rendition. However, with their current record and a disastrous way of playing the game right now, it's starting to become clear that TSM might have a really big issue on their hands with this new roster. This video aims to break down why their gameplay lags greatly behind some of the other teams in the league and critical factors that made them fall short against some of the other import-heavy rosters in the league right now. If you enjoyed this video, get subscribed for more content like this. Just as a quick preface before we dive on in here, everything that I talk about in this video is of course conjecture, folks. There's no way I or anyone can get a true understanding of what's happening behind the scenes at TSM right now. However, we can take a look at some of the facts, the gameplay, and whatever we can see, and help potentially theorize what is happening. So expect this content to be fairly opinionated and based on my observations of the subject. So the main changes in this year's roster are the sub for tactical and AD carry, as well as Koaiduo and Shenyi taking up the import slots and mid support respectively. I've personally never even heard of these two players before their debut on the TSM roster, so off the bat they're coming in with the expectation to make a good name for themselves in NA. They've also grabbed Chowie from the PCS Team Hong Kong Attitude to lead the team in the coach slot and supposedly to serve as a bit of a facilitator for the comms here on the team. Spica also serves this purpose as the main player to be proficient in both Mandarin and English. This leads into the explanation for TSM's current team dynamic and the reasons for their underperformance. On the surface, you can easily just say that this is a language issue and they're having trouble with the Chinese players syncing up with everyone else. While this is a valid statement, it can only be honored properly by explaining it with the proper context and showing you exactly how this tears this team apart. So let's start with the obvious. TSM has 3 English proficient players, with both imports being the ones struggling more with communication issues compared to the rest. Although this undoubtedly affects a team's play, this is not really a new concept to professional play. Import slots are constantly used and limit tested by several LCS teams, even with players that have terrible or even close to no English. This has worked before and still works today, and the common explanation for this is that these teams rely on League itself as the facilitating language for the team. While this can work for many teams, based on what I've observed in TSM's play as well as their comms, I can tell you that this isn't really the case for them. TSM's players in their current form fundamentally see the game in a different way, and are consistently not on the same page when their plays. You could tell this fairly easily from their comms and how distraught they are.
I wanna go top, I wanna go top. No, stay bot. I think. Stay bot? Top is useless. We're not gonna kill him. I can kill. Okay. You wanna? No, he's gonna run.
Don't fight dragon. We don't fight dragon.
Okay. On me. Yep.
What time you eat? What time you eat?
It's fine.
We go eat the red. We go eat the red.
You eat her. You need to eat her. You need to farm. It's okay. Oh, it's okay. Dragon's gone.
Normally on any professional team, you would want to be at least somewhat on the same page during the game, and then you can probably figure out any issues during or after the fact. But this is taken to the next level with this team, to the point where it's significantly impacting their ability to play cohesively together. This is further emphasized by TSM's comm style being extremely reactive, and they consistently struggle to plan out their next plays on the map and whatever fights they want to go for. Many people could argue here that League is language, but in this case, I would argue that the players on TSM are speaking different dialects. Maybe you could see that all their players understand League of Legends, but there's huge differences in how these players are currently interpreting the game, which leads to the dynamic that they aren't understanding each other, which affects their ability to work together and actually sync together as a team. You can see this in their gameplay. Sometimes they will literally call for opposing plays and be on different pages for fights, which makes it extremely confusing and means they need a ton of time to make any play, rather than focusing on spending time making the best play. In comms, you can see that Spica is literally dragging some of the players along for some of the plays that the team is making, and it's just so impossible to make a play properly when half your team isn't on the same page. We can contrast this to teams like Cloud9's Korean-based roster or Team Liquid's European roster, in which their comps are sufficient enough for them to understand each other and generally be on the same page of style. With his TSM roster, however, it looks like this language barrier combined with their stylistic differences is harming the team quite greatly. I do find this a bit of a strange observation though, since these were supposedly the best players to come out of TSM Scouting Combine last year. Leave it to that and a team with a lack of direction to create an absolute mess out of these players. I have no doubt in my mind that these players have the potential to perform. We've seen this in the past with MVP Spica being able to absolutely go off on teams and show what they're capable of. Tactical and Huni have had their own highlight moments throughout their careers, and I'm sure TSM's new imports have had their own successes on their respective rosters. But in this current environment and in these current circumstances, there is no way I can see this team working out and sticking together for the remainder of the season. Changes need to be made, and they need to be made soon.